We begin with that potential Air Canada strike. After reaching an impasse in negotiations, the Flight Attendants Union gave the airline a 72-hour strike notice. They could walk off the job as early as this Saturday. Air Canada says about 130,000 customers could be affected. Now, the CBC's Raffy Boudjikanian is joining me now with the latest. Raffy, where do the negotiations stand at this point?
There are no negotiations going on right now. Katie, you know how when you're about to board a flight, sometimes you'll see flight attendants outside at the gate, and then they'll greet passengers as they come in. Well, all that stuff, the union says, is unpaid labor. Attendants are not actually getting paid to do that work. The kind of counter for their salary only starts once the plane's doors shut. And that's been one of the big issues for them during these negotiations. They've been wanting full compensation for that. The company, Air Canada, maintains that the overall compensation they receive, well, it does kind of cover that section of their work. But they said, the union said, the air carrier admitted that they could perhaps be paid more visibly and offered a 50% wage for that part of their daily work. The union does not want that. They say they deserve 100% of their wages, and so they rejected that offer along with whatever else Air Canada was offering. The rest of it is still a little unclear. We've heard from the company that they were offering an overall 38% global wage increase spread over 4 years, and that's what the union rejected. So they put up that strike notice shortly, about an hour after midnight last night. Air Canada responded with the lockout notice today, which means that they're going to be phasing out their flights starting tomorrow for a full shutdown by the weekend. And that's where things are at right now.
So what is the federal government saying?
Well, we reached out to them today. We tried to get Minister Patty Hajdu, Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu, for comment. I believe your show asked for an interview and did not get that either. They did give us a statement, but the statement doesn't seem to reflect the latest that's been happening, because they said, we hope that the two sides remain at a table. I mean, there might be a table right now, but nobody's around it as far as we can tell from the union and the employer. They've kind of put out these dueling statements saying that they're going on strike. Well, no, you're getting locked out. And that's where things are at the moment. We do know from what Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu said yesterday in a social media statement that she has spoken to negotiators from both sides, and she has said federal mediators remain available, but there is nobody picking up on that offer right now. The employer had suggested before yesterday that they want to enter into a binding arbitration process with the union, so the federal government would get involved. The union has rejected that.
Okay, Raffy Boudjikanian, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And so for the latest on what's going on, whether the negotiations are happening or if they're on pause or if they're planned or whatever the next step is going to be, we are joined by Wesley Lesosky. He is the president of the Air Canada component of CUPE. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to just start with, is there any sort of update you can share on negotiations or plans to negotiate? What's sort of the status here?
Yeah, so I'll just make a few corrections. So the union has been at the table all day today. We have met with federal mediators, my apologies, twice. We were at the table until just shy of 2 a.m. this morning as well. As you know, we served the strike notice, and that was to apply pressure to get the company to come back to the table. So we're prepared to negotiate. We're just waiting for the company to realize that they need to play a part in those negotiations as well. So
are negotiations actively happening in this moment?
So nothing has come back from the employer, nor has the employer come back to us on things. So I would say that there is no negotiating going back and forth, but the union is here waiting to negotiate when they're ready. Okay,
so how would you describe, in terms of how far apart things stand between the union and Air Canada at this point?
There's two big sticking points, I'll call it, and that's the overall wage compensation, as well as the portion of unpaid work.
Okay, and so has there been any progress sort of in the last 24 hours around those issues, or would you say the two sides remain far apart?
I would say the two sides remain apart. I wouldn't say far apart. We've gone back to the employer with proposals. They just haven't engaged or come back with anything. We have altered our proposals while going back as well to get engagement, but again, nothing has come back to them from them.
Now, Air Canada previously requested government-directed arbitration. Is that something that you see as a viable option at this point?
I don't see it as a viable option, and we're coming out of a 10-year collective agreement. Within that 10-year collective agreement, we fell so far behind. So what we're asking for is to be brought up to where we need to be comparable to other airlines in Canada. We also, have been told by the government that the best deals are negotiated at the table, and that's what we want to do is negotiate something so our members have an opportunity to ratify it and both sides leave happy, protecting obviously the careers that we want and the brand and Air Canada.
When you look at the deals that other airlines have, what would you say is the gold standard that you're aiming for here?
That's a hard question. You look around and see different airlines out there, whether it's in the States or whether it's in Canada. But what we're looking for here at Air Canada and what our members have clearly directed us with such a strong strike mandate is they want industry-leading compensation in wages, and they want unpaid work to be a thing of the past. They don't want to have to be doing the safety aspects that they're currently doing with no compensation.
During the last session of Parliament, both the Conservatives and the NDP had come forward with bills to amend the Labour Code to ensure that flight attendants would be compensated for those pre-boarding and post-landing duties. But it hasn't, because Parliament was prorogued, it didn't happen. Do you have any indication whether the Liberals support this? You've got, the opposition supporting it. Do the Liberals support this?
We have never heard directly from the Liberals of their strong support. What we have heard is that it needs to be done at the bargaining table and you need to bargain it, you need to move it forward there. I do know that the NDP has said that they're going to reintroduce it. I do know that we've heard that the Conservatives, as of last week, again, support it and say it needs to be a thing. I don't think it's dead in government. I think it'll go back to government. I think that's the best place for it to have been settled. But unfortunately, here we are. And now it's been left on us by the government, unfortunately, to settle in this contract discussion.
So as we heard from my colleague Raffy Boudjikanian, what we understand that Air Canada has offered is that they're offering a 50% of wages for the pre-takeoff, post-landing duties, and then offered what they describe as a 38% on global compensation. That's a direct quote from an Air Canada official. I'm not quite sure what that means specifically, but why is that offer not something that you would accept?
Yeah, excellent question. So the overall compensation includes things like prone rest. So a flight attendant will be able to get 8 hours in a hotel of sleep. It includes things like crew complement to bring it up to the demands that the employer has when it comes to service levels on board. That's the overall part. But the part that's going to hit our members' pocket, what they proposed in their last pass, was 8% in the first year. That still leaves us 1% less than where inflation has us now. So that's not even a wage increase to bring us to today's standards. And we'll still keep our entry-level flight attendants and our flight attendants at Air Canada Rouge, unfortunately, at poverty levels. So that is the challenge that we have. And when we talk about the unpaid work portion, yes, they said 50% of that pre-boarding and post arrival duties, but that's not at 100% of that time. Meaning if we're there an hour prior and 50 minutes after, they are not offering 75 minutes of pay at halftime. In fact, they haven't even come at par with what Porter, a non-union airline at the time, offered their flight attendants. So it's a problematic proposal. It doesn't keep us with parity within Canada, nor does it advance us to the safety professionals we are at Air Canada.
There are a lot of anxious Canadians watching this. It's not just summer vacations that could be disrupted by a strike. It also could have a really significant impact on Canadian businesses. What do you say to Canadians who are watching this, who are deeply concerned that they could be personally affected by this?
No, I 100% sympathize with that. We are in the same boat too. We do not want to go on strike. Again, we waited till last minute. In fact, we waited an hour past that mark to hope that Air Canada would come to the table. The ball is in Air Canada's court. We, again, don't want to go on strike. We want to come to a resolution at the table where deals are made. We want to bring something forward to our members that can ratify and that Air Canada can live with. And that is the goal still. But we just unfortunately at this stage can't give up what we don't have. And that's basic wages to keep up with inflation and payment for hours that are worked. So I do feel for the public, I do, and flight attendants are incredibly compassionate and want to do their job, but we also have to look after ourselves, especially coming out of 10 years. So Air Canada can certainly solve this by coming back to the table and negotiating, and we do hope they do, so that we can preserve that for all the Canadians and people from around the world that want to travel here.
My last question is, do you anticipate there will be a strike?
I'm hopeful there won't be, but how things look now, that's very unknown. So all I can say is that I hope that Air Canada does come to the table so we can obviously not go down the strike path.
Okay, Wesley Lesosky, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
We did reach out to Air Canada for an interview today, as well as the federal government. No one was made available to our program.